feel like the industry is shrinking?
I think the industry is shrinking. I think there's a lot of agents that they're not, what is it? 72% of agents didn't close a single deal last year, I think is the study I saw. That tells you either a lot of people are part-time or a lot of people are full-time and they're struggling. All right, Zeke. Good to have you on, man. It's been a little bit since we last spoke, but we keep in touch pretty regularly, I feel like. We go back, I think, at least, what is that, 5 years now? 4 years?
Dude, it's been a minute. Yeah, 5 years.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Going on
feels like just yesterday. We were selling the new construction homes together. But yeah, this video is going to be about why we left new home sales and started over. So I wanted to start by introducing ourselves so that our audience can just get a feel of who's speaking here and where we're coming from. So I guess I'll start, but my name's Grant Aaron Sibia. I'm with Century 21 Community Realty out of Clarksville, Georgia. I sell really all over Northeast Georgia, but my two biggest markets are Habersham County and Towns County. I'm mainly in the residential listing side, also into the commercial side now. Got a few things working on the commercial side, so doing a little bit of both. And then I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a man of God, and I'm a businessman. I feel like I'm an entrepreneur at heart, always have been. And yeah, that's just a little bit about me. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Zeke.
Yeah, so I'm from the Southeast. I met Grant working for a home builder in Georgia. I went to Auburn, so I was kind of in that Georgia, Alabama area for a while. But I saved up some money and then decided to go out on my own down here in Florida. So I now live in St. Pete, and real estate is definitely my hobby and my job. And I'm excited about where my career is going to take me. And I think that that's something that we connect on. Probably a big part of our friendship as well is that shared interest, as well as just our values and the things that we care about in life. So good to have you as a friend, Grant.
Thanks, bro. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're one of my best friends, literally. I don't have much of a social life, to be honest, with how busy I am being a dad and just running the business, as you know, but it's always good to connect with another like-minded agent and friend, because I feel like we both are on that same kind of wave where you know, we're both striving for more, and
yeah,
that's
for sure.
Always encouraging to be around and talk to someone like that.
Any sales position is a roller coaster of emotions, but in our field, you know, the wins are really big and the losses are a lot more frequent for catching the big fish. So I think it is really important in real estate to have real estate friends that can guide you through things and that you can vent to keep your sanity.
Yeah, that's really important. Yeah, for sure, because it can be a very isolating feeling sometimes in the business.
Yeah, totally. And it's such a knowledge and experience based business that you're not going to be able to learn everything all at once. So having friends to learn from can definitely speed up your process.
Yeah, dude, that's such a good point, because every transaction brings its own experience in and of itself. So just like I've learned so much just from hearing from some of your transactions and your experience on your side.
No two are the same.
Yeah, and I feel like we're always going to each other for advice of like, what would you do in this scenario? And we may not, you know, we always do what we feel is best for us and our clients, and we'll always consult with our brokers, but it is nice having that second set of opinion to just like go to and generate new ideas from, think outside the box that way. I feel like we both kind of leverage each other in that way, which is handy.
When would you say was the first time that you can remember deciding, I think I'd like to be a realtor on my own?
That's a good question. For me, it was I had those thoughts growing up periodically, but it was never something like set in stone. Because like honestly, growing up, I wanted to be a pilot. If becoming a professional basketball player never worked out, that's just like where my mind was growing up. And then like first half of college, I still had my mindset on being a pilot. And then ultimately health related issues kind of eliminated that from my future. So I kind of like didn't really know where I was going at a certain point in college. But I would say, yeah, 2020 was when I had the clarity of like, I'm getting my license.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do this thing. Because I had a business that had failed online. And I was just at a point of I had nothing to lose. But I knew that like real estate, I'd been around real estate investing my whole life because I had two parents that were in it. So that, you know, just being around it, being around new construction growing up, you know, helping out mowing the grass whenever, you know, there'd be turnover in the rentals, for example, and going and working on the rentals whenever, you know, there was turnover, just fixing things up. I didn't really love it as a kid, but I learned to appreciate that side of it. But yeah, definitely I would say 2020 was whenever I got the clarity of like, I'm going all in and I'm going to be a realtor. And I'm going to help people buy and sell real estate. What about you, Zeke? When did you
Yeah,
have that
mine was
clarity?
probably just prior to that. It was during college, probably midway through college. I knew I wanted to do something that involved a lot of hands-on, boots on the ground marketing. I didn't want to be on some big team, you know, where like work in PR, where you're giving your opinion, you're writing your small piece or whatever, and that's you're capped at creative thinking beyond that. I liked how just personable sales can really become very creative, and you use a lot of other skill sets like film and yeah, branding, marketing. I really like how this job is so one size fits all. And I think if you'd asked me as a kid what I wanted to do, I would have probably said something like own my own business or something like that. And I
Yeah.
don't think I realized how that was going to look until I got a little bit older and got into sales and marketing, and then realized, oh, I can kind of run my own business on a very small scale and use a bunch of different skills. Very creative thinking, every problem is different. Yeah, so I just kind of narrowed down, I think. So maybe 2019 is when I decided to do real estate. And that's around the time I found out what goes on with new construction building.
Oh yeah.
And right around the time I graduated college, that final year, I lined up a job, moving to Atlanta and then working as an on-site agent for production home building, but largely pre-construction sales.
So you're
Yeah,
selling a dream. Yeah.
yeah, and that's where we met.
Yep. Yep. So okay, yeah. That actually, you know, hearing you say that you knew you wanted to be a business owner, I definitely had that going into my junior year of college where I just knew I wasn't going to be an employee forever. I was going to have my own business. I just didn't quite know exactly what that vision was. Uh, but to your point with video, I gave my shot at YouTube back in 2016. Was my first channel I ever put together. It was a car channel. So I have a hobby and passion in cars, but Japanese cars specifically. But yeah, I had a channel there. I gave it a go for a good 30 days. I mean, it wasn't a real go at it, but I did like the process of making videos at that time. And the idea of making money online really interested me. Which fast forward to the 2020 era, how I knew real estate was my path forward was I knew I had these skills in marketing, kind of like you pointed to, Zeke, particularly online marketing. And I felt like there was a need for newer agents who have that skill set. And I felt like it was kind of going to set me apart, if you will, because
Right.
that was just like the feeling I had back then. And in fact, whenever I found out about the opportunity with the national home builder that we worked at together, At first glance, I was like, no, I'm not going to go be an employee. I actually sat on that for about 2 weeks, if not a month, of just like knowing that the opportunity was there. But I just like, and I was still getting my license. I was still going through my course. And I just had my mindset on, all right, I'm going to just start the business, become a realtor, just do it all on my own. But I had a business that failed, like I said, and I just wasn't in a position to start all over again and not make money. I needed income, and that was why starting where we did was actually a really good play for both of us.
It is. Yeah, I think it's really tough to get into this, no matter how you do it. There's such a learning curve. I wish that Auburn University had more real estate sales classes. Like they had a lot of real estate finance classes. And I think some other SEC schools or larger universities do offer more structure than what I got.
Yeah.
But I went into it knowing nothing about a mortgage or real estate sales really in general, or even what a realtor does fully.
Yeah.
So it was all very confusing, and working for the home builder really changed the game. I mean, getting the training and having a variety of people to reach out to off the bat that you're comfortable with, that you can ask stupid questions. There's just such a learning process. And then just getting that experience. I mean, you got to do 30, 40 deals before you even really understand what's going on.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. And so I wish that there were a better way to learn, and maybe a team structure is probably the best way to learn, because you can make a little income as you're learning from people directly. But man, if I had known that I was going to go into real estate, I'm not so sure that the wisest business decision is to go to college. I loved college. I think I learned a lot about myself and just a lot about the world in college, but it was more fun than helpful towards my overall dollar amount, net worth.
I agree with that.
I think if you know at the age of 18 that you want to do this, then it's probably best to just skip college, go straight into it.
Yeah, just fast track it. Just go ahead and,
because age really doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It doesn't matter. There are just as many people out there, or it's very close to 50-50, that want a young agent as there are people that want an old experienced agent. Old experienced agents have attitudes a lot of times, and they see it only one way, whereas younger agents can oftentimes be the go-getters. So, and I'm not saying that's all the time. It's just like,
I understand.
Thinking that age matters is definitely a fallacy, because there are a lot of people that value you being young just as much as valuing experience.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think age doesn't necessarily matter. I think it's just how willing you are to adapt, especially in today's world where new stuff is coming out every single day. And we'll talk about AI here in a little bit, but I think you definitely, to be a good agent today, you just got to be someone that is willing to adapt, because there's been a lot of changes. I think me and you can both agree, even in the short span that we've been, in general real estate, since we left the national home builder. But yeah, man, let's talk about how we met. What our first impressions of each other were. I know, obviously we worked together, but let's kind of give some backstory. It was during, I don't want to even say the word, but during the virus that was out, that some people don't, I don't know that YouTube likes you to talk about very much. But the whole world was pretty much shut down, and people were still buying houses, and we had to wear masks, and we didn't have any sales meetings. I think it was about 6 months into the job for me before we actually met in person at that bowling alley for the little meet and greet event that we had for the sales team. So I just remember, seeing you on the calls, and then just hearing about you through some of the other sales team that I actually saw in person, because we were in 2 different communities. I mean, there were 40 different neighborhoods for this builder in just the Atlanta market. And so I just remember hearing about you and just being like, I want to meet this guy. I'm sure we would, kick it off, I guess is kind of how I felt. That was my first impressions. And then we actually met at the bowling alley event, and it went better than I could have imagined. It was just nice having someone like me there, I guess.
Yeah.
It was a big moment of relief for me, because
Yeah.
up until that point, I just felt like I didn't know if I would last, kind of thing. I don't know. With just
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of pressure in that role to be perfect. You've got to dress perfect. You've got to be mistake free. You know, any mistake is a big problem.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's just the weight of the job. Even in general sales, like we're doing now, there's still that massive liability on our shoulders, unfortunately. So yeah, I think there was a lot of pressure right off the bat in that field, especially with us being the younger people in the company. I'm surprised that they took chances on inexperienced people.
Yeah, two guys fresh out of college. I went to UNG, you went to Auburn. I mean, we were just freshly graduated, and they took a chance on us. And
they did, but clearly they could see the passion and the interest in learning and the teachability, which ultimately did make us successful.
Yeah, I mean, we made that company a lot of money, to be quite honest with you. I mean, millions of dollars between all the volume we sold. So even though it was short-lived, you know, I left after 3 years. I think you left probably right around that same amount of time with them.
Yeah.
So turnover, I think that's just kind of a natural thing with home builders, even though you really do make a lot of money, a lot more than I thought going into the job, I'll say.
Totally.
Whenever I heard the income stated during the interview process, I thought I was being sold a lie, is genuinely what I thought was happening.
It varies so significantly, though. It is hard to talk about income in this broad way, because even within our own company, within our own market, we were having such a big difference in the bottom agent to the top agent. And then they would switch those agents around to different communities, and the stats would change completely. So we know it wasn't at least completely directly tied to how good the salesperson was. Although obviously there are certain people that performed in every neighborhood and they're just killer agents.
Yeah, there were definitely some killers, but yeah, to your point, it strongly varied based off a neighborhood, market you're in, and even the pace. Because remember, back in that time frame, we're talking about sellers or buyers, were lined up waiting to buy.
It was an amazing time to be a seller.
Yeah, we could only sell X amount per month because we didn't want to deliver too much to corporate. So
yeah, you know what? In hindsight, it was all about shortages at the time. That's why we couldn't keep building. But the reality was, I mean, while there was a little bit of bottleneck issues due to that time, for the most part, you're right. I think that they were just trying to pace sales because they knew it was short-lived. And they knew that there was a slower market on the horizon. So let's not overextend ourselves and then have really bad quarters following that for our stock owners. And so, yeah, gradual increase is what corporations are all about.
Yeah, gradual. They don't want to, you know, if they say they're going to deliver X amount of homes this year and then they deliver more, that's actually a bad thing. And me and Zeke learned that through this process. We thought, you know, us being, you know, business-minded individuals, capitalists, I guess is a better word for it. In my mind, let's get it while the getting's good is how I thought business was always ran. But I quickly learned that, especially in a publicly traded scenario, like the builder we were working for, you don't want to over promise or under promise and over deliver on shareholders. That's actually a bad thing. You want to do exactly what you said, basically, from the start.
Yeah, I think there is a lesson to be learned there, because even in our own businesses, get it while the getting's good isn't a foolproof strategy. You do have to survive through down markets.
Right. Yeah.
And cash flow is a real problem in this job, because you may have an awesome month followed by 2 months of nothing, followed by 5 deals the next month. So, you know, get it while the getting's good may be what we're usually shooting for and what we tell ourselves in a down market. But I do think that cash flow is a real concern for this position, no matter where you're at. So there are some lessons to be learned from the way that that home builder ran its company.
Yeah, I agree. And every builder runs their ship a little differently, but I think it's all pretty similar at the end of the day when it gets that size. Okay, well, so we just talked about how we met. What's some of the? Can you think of any funny memories while we worked together, or just working with the builder in general? Anything off the top of your head?
One thing that used to crack us up for sure is how much the weather affected the traffic of prospects. So when it would rain, like,
dude, if I can find that photo whenever we were selling together at that one neighborhood that I'm not going to name, on the whiteboard, that pie chart that you made,
yeah,
I'm gonna try to put an overlay of that. I think that'll be funny.
But yeah, it's totally true that the weather dictated, having a high traffic all the time is also something that's so important when you're first starting off as a realtor or just real estate in general, because you just have to get a certain amount of uncomfortable communication run-ins under your belt before you can confidently speak on anything. I'm not the kind of person that likes to ask for the sale or to push for the sale. But you have to push for the sale. You have to ask for the sale. Sometimes people just need a little bit of encouragement to like make the purchase decision. And oftentimes they'll wait and they end up missing out on opportunities because nobody ever presented them the opportunity of, hey, do you want to buy this?
Yeah.
So just like making it easy for people by asking the hard questions. That's something that didn't come naturally to me. And all of our interactions with this high traffic job of working for a large home builder, it really speeds you up on all those sales skills that you learn in the classroom, but you just got to practice in order to have any sort of muscle memory with it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I at the time I felt like the 8-month training program was very rigorous and unnecessary, but looking back, I'm very appreciative of that time frame. Just because of, all the stuff that I didn't know. But overall, like the biggest takeaway from that position, I would say for me, was the follow-up process. I knew about follow-up through like digital marketing, but just actually picking up the phone and calling someone, and like you said, asking for the sale when the time is right and you feel like it is in their best interest for that to happen. It just, I can't really say anything else other than the follow-up was my biggest takeaway from that whole time period.
Yeah. I mean, you would get to work some days and like there's no money coming in. So like here's my list of prospects. And even though I called them yesterday, I didn't get the answer I liked yesterday. So I'm gonna call them again today. And until they like said, please leave me alone, I did not stop, I think that's a really good thing to learn that a lot of agents in general real estate, they don't do, because they're, you get rejected so often that you just are like used to the rejection. Sometimes you assume the rejection upon yourself. And I think that position really taught the follow-up of like, who cares if they say no? It's way worse to leave it open-ended. What could have been.
Yeah. Are you in or out? Yes or no? If I don't hear back from you, I'm going to try again, whenever the time's right, based off the follow-up process. But yeah, I would say that, in the position I'm in now, being mostly a listing agent, just I make it a point to pick up the phone and call every single agent that shows my listings. And that's kind of rare. I don't know how it is down there in Florida for you, but whenever I go and show a property, it's like very uncommon for that listing agent to ever try to contact me first.
Yeah, totally.
Even if it's after the showing or before the showing, anything. It's just like they can't be bothered by it. And I guess in their mindset is if they're interested, they'll place an offer, or if they have questions, they'll reach out.
Well, that's the thing about being
If
a
not, they're not
listing agent.
interested.
I think a lot of listing agents just don't take the time to educate themselves on the property. And I sound hypocritical saying this because I've definitely made this mistake, but I'm trying to learn from it, trying to do as much research as possible on the front end.
Mm-hmm.
You're responsible as the listing agent to be the most educated person on the property of anyone there. I mean, the seller obviously might know a few things about this and that, but it's all disclosed on the seller's property disclosure. So there's just no excuse for not knowing something about the house. And I beat myself up all the time for making that mistake. And some of that's just experience. It's awesome when an older, more experienced agent reminds me or asks a question that I hadn't considered previously. But all these experience, I better learn from them and learn to be educated on the property, because I think that's a big part of the reason why these listing agents don't reach out. They're not communicating with buyer agents as much as they should be in this buyer market. But I think it's partially that like, if you don't know a lot about your property, which takes a lot of time and effort, then what other value can you even add with a phone call? If you really know a lot about the property, you're gonna be dying to tell the buyer agent all the details, all the selling points that they need to know and why this property is special.
Yeah, and you're going to want to find out, why is your buyer not interested? And then also learning, what is it about that is causing this friction? Because overcoming objection, that was another big takeaway that I think you and I can both agree that we learned. And that sounds like such a sales tactic, overcoming objections. It sounds like you're just trying to fit someone into something that's not really right for them. But that's actually not true. I learned through working for that builder that, sales really is helping people at the end of the day. That's all it is. You're trying to help them get what they ultimately want. And your job is to help them realize, is this right for them or is it not? Period.
I will say this though, Grant, it's definitely transitioned morally, being in a role where you're working for a company and selling a product, because then you're not selling anything that you have a lot of pride in, I suppose. Whereas in our current business, like, it's us, we're selling ourselves. If you want to be the kind of agent that's burning people left and right, you're gonna burn out in like 4 or 5 years before you have to skip town, go to the next market. We're trying to do this, for the long run. We're trying to leave people with good experiences that they tell other people about. I'm trying to have a 5-star review on Google and this and that. I don't want people to have negative experiences with me. And I think that, working for a large corporation, that motivation isn't as strong. You want to do a good job, but just so you don't get fired and so you can go home and not stress. But now I'm trying to do a good job because I'm the one that's affected if I do a bad job.
I agree. Yeah. Well said, man. Yeah, dude, because, in that role, we were definitely put in a lot of tough situations. I think we can both agree on that, and we don't have to elaborate too much on that. We were essentially the face of the company, and it was our job to get the sign up. But it was also our job to deliver bad news when when it had to be delivered. And I just found myself constantly in ethical dilemmas with feeling like what was being done isn't right. But then there was also the other side of the coin where it's a large corporation. They have to treat every buyer the same, fair housing, and so forth.
And in hindsight, man, one thing I've learned is the whole industry has a lot of issues. And there already are so many like moral or ethical dilemmas, it feels like. And, first of all, understanding the rules is the most important thing there. If you understand the rules, you're far less likely to have any issues with this. But there is a lot of goofy stuff in real estate. And so I think that some of what I thought was unethical at the time, I'm now realizing is industry wide, and it's hard to blame the player for the rules of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. But I agree, though, when you are working for a corporation, the motivation isn't to please the customer. It has nothing to do with the customer. It's to keep the engine running.
And the
And
engine is build more houses and
yeah,
close more houses,
and we
period.
have lawyers if there's a problem, and we'll hopefully settle or whatever. It's just a different mindset than what me and you do today, because
Yeah.
we don't want to think about getting sued ever, because we're trying our best to have everyone involved in the transaction to have a great experience with
Yeah.
us across the board, from title to lending to the customers. That's the goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it is a different animal. But we learned so many lessons from it. And a lot of that does carry over to make us, in my opinion, that experience from the new home sales world does carry over to make us like a lot better agents,
Yeah, totally.
and have a different edge, I think.
I don't know how I would have done this. I mean, it's just so difficult already to start your own business with no name around town, or
Mhm.
on a team or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I think without that sales training and yeah, just like experience with rejection even, I
Hmm.
don't know that I would have the resiliency to be chugging along.
Oh man, there was a lot of rejection with that job. I realized on my way out that I realized I had, I believe, over 1,500 opportunities that were closed out. And for everyone watching, an opportunity is either an appointment that came face to face with us, or at minimum, a lead that came from our website and we got their contact info and we're in communication with these people. And ultimately, I had, let's see, I started selling that November, and I sold one unit in 2022. Sorry, no, 2021, at the end of that year. I sold 17 units the next year, and then I sold 34 the next year. Um, so there was a lot of failure in that position, to say the least. And ultimately, in that role we were in, we're the closers. The marketing team gets the appointments set to us, or the marketing just has walk-ins come to us, right? And then it's our job to have the appointment, show them what's available, understand the customer's goals, and then ultimately try to get them to build with us or buy a quick move in or spec home. Um, so yeah, there's so much rejection, and it was painful, especially at the start. But you learn to roll with the punches.
Yeah.
Uh, and I would argue that there's even more rejection we probably deal with nowadays. But it comes with there's a price to pay for everything, and ultimately every one of our efforts back then, Zeke, it was promoting the company we were with rather than our own personal brands.
Hmm.
Now, obviously, you're affiliated with Sotheby's, and I'm affiliated with Century 21, and both of which are actually owned by Anywhere Real Estate. So we kind of still work for the same publicly traded company, just a
Right.
different one. But at the end of the day, we have our name attached to everything, unlike before. And we
Hmm.
can promote it in our own ways. We can do our own campaigns and so forth. So, um, yeah, I don't know, man. It's different but similar.
Yeah, different but similar is, yep, that's very true.
Do you want to talk about like the day-to-day life of being a new home sales agent and how that compares to what that's like now?
Sure. The new home sales agent, you show up at a certain time every day, and
Mm-hmm.
then you leave work at a certain time. And the real experts of the job know how to turn their phone off, or
Yeah.
figure out what's absolutely crucial to answer and separate that from everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And those people seem to be the happiest, I'd say. So that's the way it should be done. Unfortunately, when you're fresh out of college and you're trying to make as much money as possible, you can't do that. When you have a customer hit you up at 8 p.m., it's
Yeah.
an opportunity. And there's competitors that might do it. And so just doing whatever you can to get the sale across
Mm-hmm.
the finish line. I think that is an issue with maybe certain age groups having that job or certain motivated people. If you really are trying to make the most money possible, then it can be tough to hang your hat at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I'll say. But the day to day, you're showing up 9 to 5, 9 to 6, or whatever, 9:36, I think it was, and you're in a model home. People show up sporadically, and most of what you do is on the computer in your office inside of the model home. However, about maybe 2 hours a day.
Most of it's on this thing right here.
Yeah, most of it is on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe about 2 hours of the day, you're actually like out in the community. They're showing houses or checking on houses as they're being built, or fixing problems, whatever that may be, complaining neighbors, or construction issues or sales issues or whatever else, going to pre-walks and different stuff with the builder, meetings with the builders. So I would say like 20%, maybe even 30% of the job is out in the community, driving around in the golf cart or in your car, checking out stuff and talking to people. The other 70% or 80%, you're in the office on your phone, on the computer, working through admin and working with customers.
Yeah.
Whereas now I would say my job is every single day is a little different. There's just some things that from a communication standpoint, especially from a legal standpoint, not having transaction coordinator and stuff, there's a certain amount of randomly sprung upon me emergencies from paperwork to whatever else. So at any point in the day, I could have to take 2 hours out of my day to sit down on my laptop and work on some stuff. I think that's pretty different. I think the new home job was very structured, kind of, you knew what you were going to do that day before the day started. And I think in my job now, there's a lot less of a routine structure because you have to go do this for a listing, which is then driving, and that's 6 hours out of your day. And you do a certain amount of, listing appointments. If it comes up on your calendar, you got to clear the rest of your calendar and make that the priority. Showings too, especially if it's a high price point showing. You got to be there. You got to drop whatever you're doing to be there.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say my job is just so much less structured than it used to be. And it feels weird when I have a slow week in my job now, but it didn't feel weird when I'd have a slow week in the new construction world.
Yeah.
Because it was just like you knew the machine was going to keep producing.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I would say you pretty much touched on everything on the new home sales side. I would say my day-to-day looks probably a little different than yours as a realtor now. But overall, the big difference for me was not only owning my own business and running my own business, but being more present as a father. That switch has definitely afforded me more time with my kids, and being around my kids more. We didn't even talk about working both days every single weekend, and your days off being either Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, Friday.
Which doesn't seem like a big deal initially.
It doesn't.
But it's a real block on socializing.
Yeah, because everyone works you're at work when everyone's off.
Right.
And you're off when everyone's at work.
Yeah. And you may have friends, but you're gonna be almost like distant from them because of how many missed Saturdays and Sundays you've missed events.
It is a sacrifice for sure. I mean, it's kind of like car sales in a way, I guess, in that way. Even the pay structure a little bit of how there's the draw, base pay, and so forth. But yeah, just not having to work on the weekends, making your own schedule. Obviously we have to go and show on the weekends. That's
we still work on the weekends, but like we can structure our weekends around those plans.
Yeah. Like you don't have to be at the model home from 9:30.
Right. And it would be like a thunderstorming day, and you'd have no admin.
It would just be so frustrating whenever no one would show up for an appointment on both days of a weekend whenever you missed out on something.
That's one of the worst parts, I'd say.
Yeah, I would agree. But yeah, being more present. I do work from home a lot. I spend a lot of my time analyzing properties and deals, just understanding my market, prospecting. Obviously, we got to do that to stay alive. Before, we didn't even really have to do top of funnel prospecting. I mean, that was all handled by our marketing team, and that's why being on a team like you suggested to start this call, or the new home sales route, that's why it is easier and better to start out that way. There's more guaranteed lead flow, and you get more conversations guaranteed by going that route. What we're doing, being solo agents, you got to obviously prospect and learn what's working and what isn't, and keep track of everything. It's a very analytical game, I think we play.
It takes up too much of the job, unfortunately, at least in the early going.
I mean, I would say majority of my time is spent in the prospecting.
Yeah. And I wish that I wish I could just wake up and work for my clients. That's what I wish I could do every day. But unfortunately, I can't do that all the time every day, or I won't have new clients once these clients are satisfied.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's probably the worst part of the switch is the top of funnel prospecting, the cold prospecting.
But I'll say, and I think me and you both agree on this, it's going to pay off. It's going to be like a snowball effect.
Right.
We're promoting our brand, and in theory, that should grow as each transaction happens. The more past clients you have and so forth, sphere grows. Whereas before, you could get moved to any neighborhood at any given time, and, all of your deals you were working on just pretty much goes to the next guy, and all of your success, all of your good Google reviews you got for that neighborhood doesn't matter anymore, because all of that is just going to help out the next person. So that was a very frustrating part of that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Also, the commission changes randomly based off your success.
Yeah, they'll cut your commission back if they think you're going to make too much that year. Yep. We experienced that.
In our current role, though, we still have to fight for our commission.
Oh yeah, especially after those March changes.
But at least we get a chance to negotiate on the commission, whereas in the past it was just they decided how much, and depending on the neighborhood you're in and how well you did last month and all of those factors, they would change the commission, and they'd say they were doing it in an attempt to keep everyone's pay as close as possible. But it just, as you know, it's not fair. The game's not fair. And sometimes people have good months and bad months, and it's random. And so having your commission change can really help you or really hurt you on a whim all of a sudden. I think that was kind of a tough part of the job. I wouldn't say it was like messed up. I would say it's just a tough thing to digest. It kind of makes sense why they do it. It's a hard thing to digest.
It is hard. And if I was in that position of trying to make it fair for everyone, it is a hard thing to do.
Totally.
It's not an even playing field. Every market's different. Every community is different. Every product is different. So it was a very complicated issue to try to solve.
I will say one thing about new home sales too, is if you're the kind of person that needs affirmation, it's probably not a good field for you, because there was a lot of like, I just need to do what I need to do so I don't get in trouble. That was kind of one of the main motivations. I mean, you're trying to make money and stuff, but you also just want to keep the job. And there's not a lot of check-ins with the manager. You don't see the manager when you're in the model home. You see the manager like once a month or less, besides on like Zoom calls and stuff.
Less. It was like 5 months in the job before I met my manager in person.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. So I think that's a tough part of the job. Like, some people really do better when someone's constantly checking in on them, because then when you make a mistake further down the road, you're like, oh, well, they know my character. They know who I am. They know that this is a mistake. But when you don't see your manager for 4 months, and the first time that they have to come to see you in person is when you did this horrible mistake, it feels like you have no character to build off of. Like, this is your defining thing, is this mistake. And so I think it creates a relationship with the manager as well, where it just feels like all I do is mess up. I just have to keep calling the manager because I'm messing up constantly. And I think that if we had seen the manager more, if they'd been a little bit more part of the job, a little more structured, then maybe I wouldn't have felt as much of like a mess up to the manager. And I think nowadays though, I am the kind of person that can be so self-motivated that I cut myself slack and can deal with the rejection and that kind of thing. So with experience now, that's probably not as big of a thing. But I know that some people, and maybe myself, when I just didn't have the rejection experience, that can be a tough thing to not have structure to your job and everything being on your shoulders with no oversight.
Yeah, we were essentially the CEOs of our neighborhoods is kind of how it was put. You know, we were even in a way managing the construction managers, making sure they were communicating with the buyers as they should, and getting just updates on every single house in production, making sure the neighborhood was clean, every job site was clean. I mean, yeah, those neighborhoods were our babies. They were our source of income, so to speak. And it was definitely in our best interest to make it look as appealing as possible to the next buyer. Yeah, it was just a really crazy time of life, honestly, looking back on it. So, all right, we just talked about that, life selling, new construction. Why did we leave the builder world? I'll let you start. What was it that...
Well, we've already kind of talked about a lot of it.
Yeah.
A lot of the like discomforts, I'd say, of the job. I think one of the things that really got to me the most is just realizing that there was no ability to move up, right? I mean, yeah, you know for a fact you're going to make six figures. Or maybe in the worst market, you'd be just under that. But you're going to make a good living. Your healthcare's paid for. Everything is, you know, you're going to make a good living. You can support
401k match, benefits. Yeah, it's a good setup.
Right. But that's the best it will ever be. And I think looking at some of the older people in the company that have been there for 15, 20 years and seeing their frustration with college kids coming in and getting their exact same treatment, just absolutely no seniority benefits whatsoever, no loyalty benefits whatsoever. You know, and you may think you have a great relationship with the manager until the manager hires his favorite college kid. And now the manager is buddy with the college kid, and now the college kid's getting the best neighborhood in the market.
Yeah.
And I think that is definitely a frustrating reality that I just saw eventually that was going to kill me. That was going to be the death of me. I was going to be so upset about it and just be bitter and this and that. And I really...
And there were a lot of... Sorry to cut you off. There were a lot of people we worked with that were bitter, and they were secretly bitter. Sorry, go on.
No, it's true. It's true. It's a big frustration of the job. So just looking at, I wanted to build something more than anything. I wanted to build a business. And there you don't build a business, you run a business. And I think that's one of the biggest differences. There's nothing that you build upon. Leads just disappear and they're gone forever. They just slip through your hands. You have one transaction with them. And I think that really got to me. I just knew that in 10 years, if I did it on my own, I'd be in a much better position than I would be in 10 years with the builder. Now, from a financial standpoint, you might actually be better off just working for the builder. You start buying rental properties, invest in stocks from an early age. You know, you might be better off having that cash flow opportunity for a long period of time than you are out on your own as a realtor. But I just really wanted to get my business to a point where I'm only working with people I really enjoy. And I'm doing, you know, a very manageable amount of transactions at higher price points where I can really focus on the deals at hand. And just, get my business to where it's enjoyable and a routine and still growing each year. And I didn't see that opportunity. I was going to be working with that home builder. I was going to be working Saturdays and Sundays for the rest of my life.
Yeah. No, man. Yeah, there was just really no light at the end of the tunnel was the feeling I had. And there was always something waiting for me behind the corner. You know what I mean? Like you just never know what was waiting for you just right around the corner.
There's a ton of change. Yeah.
It could be a, completely different pay structure like that got dropped on us and no one bothered to even give us a notice on. It could be
Right.
a whole I mean, you just never know. It could be you wake up
With
tomorrow
that being
morning.
said, I've had so much change since as well.
Yeah.
In my business. I mean, our real estate industry as a whole is undergoing so much change right now. So that's certainly a part of it as well. Even the market and the interest rates, literally every aspect of real estate is just a complete blender right now. There's so much variance. And so I think that maybe some of the changes, the drastic changes, were market related.
Some, yeah. But I would argue that in that position we were in, there was a lot more of moving stuff around that you just have no control over whatsoever.
Yeah.
Whereas where we're at now, we're driving the ship we're on. Obviously the wind, that's the market. You just never know which direction it's going to be going.
Yeah.
If you're going to be like going full force against it or if it's going to be pushing you behind. I don't know, man. There's a lot of outside sources or factors. But I've never felt more in control of my income, even though my income has dropped significantly since leaving the new construction world. Would I change it? No, I would do it again for sure.
Me too.
It's just because I know where we're going.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know where we're going. Me and you are both on the same trajectory. We're going to help more and more people each year. And I do think the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Even in this low transaction volume market we're in.
Yep.
Let's compare Georgia, Northeast Georgia's market specifically to Florida, like the Tampa area that you're in. What are some of the things you're noticing buyer-wise right now? And then we'll talk about seller-wise.
Well, I'll say one of the big differences, I think, between selling homes in Georgia versus Florida is the insurance standpoint. Flood zones are such a big part of the affordability for buyers, especially at lower price points. Because, at high luxury price points, a lot of times those homes are bought in cash. So you don't even need to insure your home if you don't want to. But for everybody else that's using a mortgage, you have to have flood insurance if you're in a flood zone. And a third of all of the homes in my county, or even more, are in a flood zone.
Wow. Okay.
And we are the highest density populated county in the state of Florida. So there's so much opportunity in my county, and I really want to keep it local, my business local. But a lot of it is low lying. It's in flood zones, which is a tough sell right now with hurricanes as a big memory. So I think that that's been a really big uphill battle. We also had some legal changes to condos, which a big part of my market is condos.
Yeah.
And that's raised the fees and the budgets for every condo because they now have a higher standard of what they legally have to have reserved for the building. And so all of those things are definitely affecting my market. And there's issues that you aren't necessarily having to face.
Right.
That's how it's a big difference. What'd you ask me right before that?
I mean, you pretty much, that was kind of what I was getting at, is just like, what's the buying process like down there? What do buyers experience? I mean, I think you just kind of touched on a lot of it. It sounds like pretty Florida specific stuff right there. And I've heard that through the grapevine, but I know that you have, you do a lot of condo stuff. So are you seeing more transaction volume in condos right now or still single family?
I think Florida's condo market is going to be okay because there's always going to be a desire for it. When you leave your condo, especially if you only live here seasonally, you don't have to worry about anything. You close the door and then you walk out 3 or 4 gates. and then that's it. You don't have to worry about anyone looting or breaking in. When a hurricane happens, you likely, unless you're on the first floor, you probably don't even have to worry about flooding or anything. Whereas if you live in a single family home, there's a lot more concerns with leaving the home behind. You have grass to mow, you have, weeds and all kinds of issues that you have to maintain. Also, the condo, you have somebody that's looking over the main stuff at the condo. So if something does happen,
Yeah.
you don't need to immediately fly in.
Yeah.
So I think for those advantages, condos will always be an attractive thing for buyers. Also, it's an opportunity to get an amazing view at the beach. So beach condos, or even St. Pete now has a downtown skyline that has become something that people are willing to pay a lot more money to face and to look at. So yeah, I think view and then those advantages have kept the condo market going, but there certainly are some risks and some concerns with buying a condo. And if it doesn't make sense for the other reasons, it might be a really bad mistake to buy a condo versus a single family home. Totally depends on the person and what your real estate goals are. But we have a very high inventory condo market right now, and they're still building more condos.
Wow.
So it is really interesting. Yeah, I think it'll be okay in the long run, but in the short term, we're way oversaturated.
Got it. Are some of those listings sitting longer on the condo side?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's got to be a sweet price. And then even then, the building itself matters. And so much of that is out of the seller's control.
Mm-hmm.
There are just some buildings where everybody wants to be in. And even though the condo itself is in terrible condition, it might just be the building that the person's trying to get in.
Yeah, the location, I guess, more so than anything, right? I guess.
And amenities, yeah.
Yeah.
And even fees. And even now financial budget at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
A lot of digging that you have to do if you are looking for a condo. I would say it's way easier to buy a single family home without an agent than a condo without an agent. You really do need somebody that knows a lot about it. At the very least, you'd need a real estate attorney when you're trying to buy a condo representing you, because it's just it's sticky, man. There's a lot of laws. A lot of those laws are brand new in Florida, like came out last month and 2 months ago and stuff like that.
So you need someone that's fresh. They know all the
yeah, or at least an attorney that can help you navigate.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just, as you know, in Northeast Georgia, there's not much of a condo market. There's some pockets, but it's far and few between. Most of it is single family residences, large tracts of land, build ready lots, and then obviously commercial, which is in any market. But yeah, I don't know. Like, what would you say 500,000 could buy you in your market? And I know that different pockets would obviously.
That's a great question, Grant.
Something different.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Let's give the audience some, reference here.
Yeah, 500K gets you a high and dry, because in my market, in most cases, being not in a flood zone values the home higher than being right on the water or close to the water. It depends, obviously. Like if you have waterfront and a dock and stuff, now you might be talking about a over 500K just for the lot. But if you're like across the street from the water or something like that, even close to the beach in this regard, if that home isn't on stilts or something, you can get 500K on the water or across the street from the water as a single family ranch style floor plan. But then you're risking getting flooded, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
But 500K gets you a nice home in the center of the county where it's not in a flood zone, maybe like 1,200 to 2,000 square feet, 3 to 4 bedrooms is 500K.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about, it's not going to be like a showstopper or anything. It's going to be a nice home. That's above average. I would say your average single family 1,200 square foot home, 1,500 square foot home is like high 300s, low 400s.
Okay.
So 500K and if it's not larger than 2,000 square foot, we're talking about a pretty nice, comparable to new construction home, or even a really beautiful renovated home. But definitely at the like beginning of the luxury side, starting to talk about properties that are like worth sharing on Instagram and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Up here in Northeast Georgia, 500K budget, I would say, obviously depending on area, because Northeast Georgia is pretty broad to say the least. But, you could definitely buy a home with mountain views. You could even buy a home lakefront. Probably not going to have a dock, Riverfront, that's definitely within the realm of reality.
That's awesome.
But just know the better the property gets, probably the worse the house is in those scenarios. So that's just
Right.
something to gauge. Because that's a big thing in my market is, you know, it's got the waterfront but the house, or it's got the house but it doesn't have this kind of thing. That's why running comps in my market, it's actually really tricky sometimes, because you'll have two really similar homes on similar size lots, but one has mountain views, for example, or one's mountain views are better than the other's mountain views, and it's hard to quantify that.
Totally.
But
same can be said with condos, trying to decide how much a floor view difference is, like being on the sixth floor versus the fifth floor.
Right.
And it totally depends on the building. It depends on what you're looking at.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that. But 500K, like if you were to go buy new construction, that's in the realm of reality. Like even in a place like Dawsonville, around the corner from me, you could definitely buy new construction in the low fives. It's going to be, probably a point, like a 1/10 of an acre lot. You're going to have HOA fees, might even be in a golf community. And you're looking at 2,000 square feet or less, probably in that scenario, 3 to 4 bedrooms. So yeah, there's options in that price range. And then you could even, buy a trailer on a lot of acreage. I've seen some listings, up there in that price point, because there are mobile homes in my market. Are there many mobile homes down in your market?
There are. A lot of them just got decimated with the hurricane, and most of them are actually in the counties north and south of the one that I'm mostly selling in.
I'm imagining out of the floodplains for the most part.
I would say 50-50. It's kind of surprising.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, the hurricane that we just had was the worst one we've had in 100 years. And it still wasn't that destructive. Only like a couple people died here in Florida.
That's a blessing.
It really is just flooding.
Sad, but it's a blessing. Only that many,
Totally. Yeah. I mean, for how much property damage it did, it is amazing that it really wasn't that not that many people were injured or died. But all of that was flooding, and it was just completely unprecedented.
Yeah.
So a lot of those homes for 70, 80 years or even more had never experienced any issues. And this was the first time.
Yeah.
A lot of our codes have changed too, and that's forced people to build back differently than how it was prior.
How would you say the construction differs from what you saw up here that we're building with our home builder?
We do a lot less vinyl siding.
Oh, really?
A lot less. We have a moisture issue, so cinder block and stucco are really popular.
Got it. Hardy or no?
No, hardly any.
No, okay.
I hardly know her. There's not a lot of it. Yeah, I mean, there still is for sure, especially like some of the 90s and 2000s homes, but there definitely wasn't a lot of that being built in the 50s and 60s here, which were when the majority of homes were built.
Vinyl's pretty prevalent in the Northeast Georgia area. I'd say the closer you go to Atlanta, the more hardy you'll see on average. I would say there's no one's building with stucco these days. I mean, not here in Georgia. It's very rare.
I think that's just for moisture issues.
Yeah. All right. So if you were to give any advice to a buyer watching this, what would you say for your market?
I'd say now's time to buy. Now it's time to buy. We don't know if it's going to get or when it's going to get harder to buy, as in switch to more of a seller's market, as in prices going up, as in less homes available to buy. But what we do know is that we have an excess of inventory right now, and that the interest rate has stayed pretty stable, and it's unlikely to go down anytime soon. And we know that there's a lot of people that have been experiencing pain in trying to sell their home. And we also know that life events, regardless of market conditions, are going to force people to move or to sell their home. And so there are sellers out there that are 1 year frustrated, or even 2 years frustrated into trying to sell their home, that are now offering it at a ridiculously low price. Like prior to 2018 pricing, even maybe 2015 pricing or so, because they have to get rid of it. I've sold a couple properties, and I've seen a couple properties in my market sell for well below what they could have just 2 years ago. I mean, more than 20% below what they could have sold for 2 years ago. And so I think that those deals are out there for people that are willing to search through them. And the way you search through them is to make offers, because not every seller is going to advertise their best. In fact, most sellers right now are advertising a number that isn't even close to the bottom line.
Would you say that most sellers that have a listing on the MLS, would you say that most of them are not being realistic with the current reality of the market?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think people are a little confused about where the market is, because there's so few transactions that when you see one where the buyer had money and they didn't really care and they were selling another home in the same market, or maybe they've been renting after selling their home at the top of the market. A lot of those people will buy the home that they love, not the cheapest home, not the best deal. And so there's occasional deals in neighborhoods that support previous year's pricing, but that may not be valid or an accurate comp to go off when pricing your home.
I think it's almost,
it's hard to know, I guess is what I'm saying. It's very hard to price a home right now correctly. Sometimes you think it's a great deal and it's just falling flat, and then sometimes you price it where you think, oh, we're a little overpriced, and then you get a lot of action. So I think that buyers are only buying the homes that they either really want, that are really beautiful or really awesome or unique in some way, or that are advertised as a great deal.
Yeah. I think it's almost the opposite of the 2020 to mid 2022 era, where the people that were moving, it was so easy for them to sell their exit home for way over asking even. But then they would run into an issue whenever they had to go buy, because they were placing offers with 10, 15, 20 other people placing offers on the same house, and there just wasn't enough houses to go around for people to buy. That was, I guess, ultimately what was going on. Now I would almost argue, if you can list your home for sale at an aggressive enough price to get it actually sold or under contract, and then go buy a house, I think you're really set up for a good move right now. It's obviously the biggest friction is going to be selling.
I think that's the big thing.
How would you direct your clients to, like, let's say I am someone that has a home right now in your market, and I'm looking to sell my home so I can buy another one either in your market or somewhere else, maybe even out of the country. How would you direct them to make that move? Would you have them list the home first?
Yes.
And then obviously be looking while it's listed?
Well, I guess it depends
what's out there.
I think it
How would
depends
you
on
do
if you're using the proceeds from the exit home, then it's very different from if you're not. If you can float two mortgages, or maybe you own the home outright and you're buying the next one in cash without needing the funds, then I don't think it really matters. I would say, go ahead and start looking for the right home first, and then once you secure that, then try and sell your other one. But if you're using the proceeds, then you can't even look right now without testing the water of the market. Is your home even going to be able to sell at a price that's reasonable? And then how does your budget look after you get the number that the market's going to give you? So, it's a tough game to play. Everyone I know that has been, at least through the last 6 months or so, that I've been trying to work deals with that have a contingency, it's messy. It's difficult. That exit property gives them headaches. So, I mean, it's tough to sell a property right now. And I think for that reason, Grant, a lot of people are uncomfortable in their current home. They've either outgrown it, or they don't need that much space or whatever, but they're not even considering listing because they know the market's slow right now. They don't want to deal with having a realtor show the home randomly for the next 12 months. And I can't really blame them.
And there's a lot of people that bought, like you alluded to, 2020 to 2023, that if they were to sell right now, they're upside down, and they can't get out of this house.
Literally can't.
On top of that, what will their payments increase to if they were to downsize? Which is a crazy phenomenon. But you trade that 2.5% interest rate for a measly 6.5%. That's going to really affect your retirement if you're someone looking to downsize at that stage of life. I mean,
that's a really good point.
You're probably just going to stay put and keep, maintaining the place, even though you really don't want to anymore. And you really want to go to the beach and be oceanfront or whatever it is. So I think that there's a lot of people there's a lot of pent up demand right now for all of these reasons, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's also important for the audience to know that there's about 40% of all houses that are fully paid off, no mortgages on them, in America right now. And out of the other 60%, there's a large percentage that has interest rates under 4%.
Ooh, yeah, because they would have refinanced during that time. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's really just locked a lot of people in to where no one wants to take out. I know it's over the grand scheme of things, 6.5 is low compared to what it has been in the history of the American housing market. But there's just a lot of people not willing to take on that debt and those payments, no matter what that lifestyle change is.
Right. Well said.
And so that's why I think we're experiencing these sellers that are not wanting to face reality. And I'm seeing the same thing up here. I feel like probably a large percentage of the Southeast, if not America, is experiencing that similar kind of consensus on the market. But yeah, man, let's go ahead and close this thing out. I know we've been talking here for a little bit. Where do you think the industry's headed?
I think buyers agents are phasing out. I do think that. I mean, not anytime soon, because the education has to get digestible enough for the public to accept it. I mean, so much of the job is knowledge-based. But at the very least, commissions for buyers agents, at least in my market, have already taken a tumble. It's far less likely that the buying agent is going to make the same amount of commission as the selling agent. And some of that is, the fees of associated with listing a property. But it just seems like listing a property, that job is so necessary. People need you to be watching over the house, cleaning the house, answering phone calls, listing there's so many actionable steps that are boots on the ground. And I think that's going to be there for a very long time, regardless of AI and stuff. But from the buying standpoint, now that we have these search engines online and stuff, it's just so much more digestible for when you think about where the industry was 60 years ago or even 20 years ago, when people are flipping through books, not using an MLS system. It was just so difficult to buy a house then compared to the way it is now. And with ChatGPT, every question you have, you just ask ChatGPT and there's an answer. It may not be the right answer. It's going to be close enough to get you across the finish line.
They'll point in the right direction most of the time.
I think for that reason, it depends on what you're buying and where you're buying and what the market's like and stuff. But I think that there are going to be an increasing number of educated people that don't feel the need to use an agent for the buying aspect. I think that's one of the ways I think the industry will be changing. I also think it's really interesting, Grant, how much our industry is not geared towards the consumer. Everything's about making law changes to protect real estate agents and to it's not all about making sure that the business is fair and honest or even affordable for the end user. It's far more about protecting the different levels of people involved and their salaries and their groups. And that concerns me a little bit. I just think that it's scary when your industry starts to seem like they're fighting for ground. Because it makes you feel like the industry is shrinking.
I think the industry is shrinking. I think there's a lot of agents that they're not what is it? 72% of agents didn't close a single deal last year, I think is the study I saw. That tells you either a lot of people are part-time or a lot of people are full-time and they're struggling to make ends meet. I think the top 10% of agents probably do about 80 or 90% of the volume, truthfully speaking. I think the good ones will prevail. I think the good ones will always have a need or a spot in the market. There's going to be that need. But I do see buyer agency reducing and continuing to, like you said. I think in my market, I haven't noticed what you've noticed, where the buyer's agents are getting paid less at the closing table. And also it's still, well, I don't even want to say that, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens to buyer agency, because I do see it reducing because of AI.
Or maybe it's just the cost of it reduces and the expectation of how much you pay that kind of an agent. And maybe in turn, those agents, buyer agents, will start putting more restrictions on what they're signing up for.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to show you 40 properties because they're only going to make, however X percentage.
Right.
Or maybe there's a fee associated with it. It's a flat fee. Hey, you pay this amount and you get my services. I'm not sure what that will look like, but I do know that to think that there's not going to be a change in that with such a difference in access to information for the end user is just, I think, foolish. I mean, you think about this though, if you're a family relocating to a town, like there's no machine that's going to tell you where's the best neighborhood that's going to fit your family. But working with a person and asking questions and getting opinions, and I mean, that helps significantly through that process. So there's always going to be a need. It's just, I do see a shakeup in the industry because of how different our jobs are as buyer's agents today versus what they were 50, 60 years ago, or even 20 years ago, like I said.
We're mainly a listing-based business anyways, though.
Right.
So we focus mainly on the listing side, and that's truthfully where it's always been. When real estate was first, from my understanding, when real estate agents were first kind of introduced as a profession to the market, there really was just a listing agent, and then buyers would come to them from the ads, and it would be like that agent working both sides of the deal, which I still see that as an issue if that's the case. And in Georgia that's legal, in Florida that's illegal from my understanding.
It's legal if you treat it as a transaction broker, so your responsibilities are less to your clients.
Got it. Yeah. So it's going to be kind of an experienced buyer or just a buyer that probably gets the short end of a stick at the end of the day, from my understanding. And my brokerage doesn't even allow dual agency just because of it's really hard to keep that fiduciary duty to both sides. But it'll be interesting to see what happens to buyer agency. I don't see the listing agent going away ever. That's just my opinion on that.
It's just too much of all the little things, man. It's just so many boots on the ground activities, so much work that goes into it. There's a reason why for sale by owners have a history of a big difference in what they sell for. What they get, even with the commission difference. And that's the craziest stat. But it's just, if you're not willing to put 100% effort into selling it, then you're better off hiring someone to do that, because the work already is going to be worth paying for. Truly, the amount of time invested, especially in a buyer's market. When it was just throw your home up and get it sold, maybe it was a little different, but now it's not that. You need somebody there sweeping the cobwebs and, continually managing the property. And a lot of my listings are vacant listings, and there's so much more work that goes into that.
Yeah, dude. They get the cobwebs, and just stuff can go wrong. Like I had one vacant that ended up getting a leak, and just making sure the water's off during the winter and so forth. Like obviously that's not our responsibility. That is the homeowner's responsibility, but it is our job to help. At the end of the day, we're there to help get the property sold.
Right. Anything that
And-
affects the property not being sold is our responsibility. At least that's how I see it. If there's
yeah,
something that the seller is doing that is adversely affecting it getting sold, it is your responsibility to speak up.
for sure. Yeah, if you notice
Yeah.
something, say something.
Yeah.
So the biggest opportunity for agents today, what would you say?
For agents today, I'm just gonna say relationship building, because in a market like this, you get a lot more free time than in
Mhm.
one of the crazy everybody's trying to buy at once markets.
Mhm.
So using that time to build lasting relationships that are, maybe that's people that are just going to train you or teach you from their experience. Maybe that's, um, city workers that have the insight on some code
Yeah.
uh, changes in your area or whatever that may be. Shaking more hands and meeting more people and growing your sphere. I think that's the number one thing you can do. That's the big opportunity in this market, because when the sun comes back out, it's going to be a lot less realtors standing. And so using this time to spread your influence is probably the best
Mhm.
thing you can do.
Yeah. Well said, man. All right, the final question. If you could give your 22-year-old self one piece of advice before entering real estate, what would it be?
Wow, that's a good one. You can go first if you have an answer.
I haven't really thought about this. If I could tell myself that,
It's
I would
kind of like,
probably,
it's like
yeah,
a
go ahead.
dark room. Like if you're blindfolded in a room,
Uh-huh.
no amount of somebody being like, "Hey, there's a chair over here. Hey, there's a couch over here." Like that's not really going to help you all that much. Like you really just got
Yeah.
to feel it out for yourself. Even if somebody is
Yeah.
telling you where it is, you still got to like touch it and move
You
along
just
in
got
it.
to do it. Yeah.
So, I don't think that there is any magic advice that would have really
Mhm.
saved me a ton of time or effort, other than just make friends, learn from other people, because that saves you so much time. There are lessons that they're going to teach you that you won't have to learn for yourself.
Yeah.
But in general, there's no magic advice. You just got to get out there and fail.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, if you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and Zeke's. We're going to be collaborating on this one. Follow along so that you can stay up to date on Northeast Georgia real estate on my channel and St. Pete real estate on Zeke's channel. Let us know in the comments if y'all have any questions or any other video topics y'all want to see in the near future. Zeke and I, we're planning on doing a couple videos a month, maybe one a week. We'll see what that schedule looks like, but this is obviously the first one of many to come. And then, I'm looking forward to the next one, man. Thank you for your time. It was fun, as
It was
always.
fun, man.
This is honestly one of our shorter calls. I think we're usually on the phone pretty long.
Yeah.
And it was honestly just a thought I had. Hey, why don't we just start making videos out of our phone calls? I mean, just letting the world see kind of what our conversations are like. I
Yeah.
think, at the end of the day, I think buyers, sellers in either market, maybe other agents, maybe people looking to be an agent, maybe I could see a lot of people just seeing this and wanting to know. But yeah, let us know in the comments what y'all think.